Evening, ladies and gentlemen, and today is July the 17th, 2019. It is 5:30, and I now call this San Juan Economic Development Corporation meeting to order. Our first item on the agenda is our roll call. I'll begin with my right.
Ben Arjona, City Manager.
Art Rodriguez.
Bob Garza, President.
Arturo Guajardo Jr.
Israel Garza.
Contreras.
And I believe Mr. Marky Villegas has an excused absence today, and we're expecting our two other members shortly, so hopefully they'll come in. Our next item is our public comments under number 3. Is there anybody registered for public comments? No one registered for public comments, and we'll move on to our number 4 item, which is Executive Director's Report. Mr. Arturo Rodriguez, welcome aboard, first of all.
Thank you.
I see that the first thing is an introduction. Are you going to introduce yourself, or is somebody else going to introduce you?
I will
may,
gladly introduce myself,
If I
reintroduce
may,
myself.
Chairman, I want to say that long-awaited Executive Director finally with us. He's ready to run, and as a matter of fact, he's not ready to run. The guy is already running.
All right.
And so welcome on board, Mr. Rodriguez. He will be an asset to this organization, to the city, and the EDC most important. But yeah, welcome on board.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity and the vote, and more importantly, the trust, because it comes with a big package of responsibility, and I intend to meet that and demand and go beyond and work with someone and work with each and every one of you. Okay?
Very good.
Thank you.
I'd also like to welcome you on behalf of the board, Mr. Rodriguez. I know, and I want to thank you for your patience. I know that this dragged on a little bit. We were in the middle of an election, and it kind of threw things off calendar-wise. But thank you for being patient with us, and we are very excited about you joining our team. As you will know, if you haven't recognized already, each and every member of this board is very passionate about the city of San Juan, and we are all very, very excited about what you're going to bring to the table to help us push forward new economic prosperity for our town. So hopefully you can help us out with that.
Coming in with a lot of patience, and as they say, good things come to those who wait. So I'm ready. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Then I'll let you continue with your report.
Okay. Of course, we're past the introduction, and we're going back to section 4B of the report on the open house and the ribbon cutting. Unfortunately, I was not here for that event, but
I can take over you like.
yeah, I will ask
Sure.
Mr. City
Yes,
Manager
Mr.
Ben
Chairman.
Arjona to.
Sure. Members of the board, July the 10th, Wednesday, we had the, I guess, the ribbon cutting and the facility of the ER, the standing hospital that is there. It's
Right.
it's a beautiful facility, state of the art. It's like a mini hospital. So they have for, I guess, pretty much any treatment that can treat you for at the hospital, they can do it there. So it'll be a great benefit to the citizens of this community, San Juan, so that instead of driving all the way to the hospital, we have it here ready to go. So it's already operational. There's additional work being done on the south side. We're hoping that future development can take place in that area. But this item, this facility open house took place on Wednesday, July the 10th.
So it is open for business already.
Yes, sir.
And so it's just emergency room services. It's
It's
not like
emergency
a
room services.
doctor's office or anything like that,
No.
right? It's
But they
more
have a
like
doctor-
ambulances will take people there. trauma
It's a
units.
little hospital. That's what it is. They do x-rays, they do scans. And from there, if they diagnose or make it a diagnosis that you need to go to a hospital for a larger facility, they will transport by ambulance.
Very good.
It's they've got pretty much everything that the hospital can provide.
And they do have 2 or 3 rooms where they can actually deliver babies.
Wow.
Yes.
We're
So-
back to getting births in San Juan again.
Beat that.
Nice. I know I was one of them in that old hospital. And before we move on to the next item, I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Arjona for filling in the shoes. I know sometimes it's a thankless job, but you had your plate full as city manager and then doing this job as well. So thank you for your time and what you did for us.
Pleasure.
Really. Okay, Mr. Rodriguez, you can continue.
We'll move on to section C, which is the San Juan EDC calendar. Martha Patterson has worked diligently on this and has prepared a color-coordinated city calendar, EDC calendar, under tab 2. And it has distinction of by the colors on the various holidays and the EDC meetings and the city commission meetings and the post agendas and the holidays and directors meetings and the urban county meeting that took place. So it's the calendar to date.
Great.
And she spent a lot of time on this, so
Good job, Ms. Martha. This is the first. I haven't seen anything like this, but it's good to have all our meetings set right there. We can always refer back to it and know when our meetings are supposed to be. Cool.
Mr. President, I got one question in reference to this. Just for clarification purposes, our meetings are the first and third Tuesday pretty much of every month as seen. Agenda items, will we have a deadline to submit agenda items, and to whom is that going to be?
That doesn't change statutorily. That's, has to be done, what, 72 hours before we have to post the meeting? So I guess any time before the 72 hours,
As long as they're before
we
72
can
hours.
discuss and put agenda items on.
Because the agenda will be posted, I'm assuming 72 hours before.
Correct.
Typically it's posted on the Friday before the meeting.
Would have that week, Monday
Right.
through Wednesday, Thursday maybe at the latest, to get agenda items in. ¿Verdad?
if I may ask a quick question on that, I know that we can do this electronically, and I know there's been some issues electronically. Is this something that you'd rather have in your hands if we put it out on a Friday, right, before the next meeting?
Or the agenda,
The agenda.
when you're
and-
posting the agenda?
Yes. Now, or are you wanting to see the support information on that way ahead of time? Or I don't know what your practice has been, and I'm curious, but I will fulfill whatever this board requires. And
Well, I'm glad you bring that up. The earlier the better, I would think, for everyone. Historically, here in the past, and I don't want to point fingers or blame anybody because we're all kind of busy, but it's the day of the meeting, that's when we get, I mean, the day of the posting, we get our packet. But, you know, any of us can put agenda items on there, right? Well, that's always been the case, so that can continue to be that. But I haven't had any problems getting the packets digitally. It's fine with me. I don't need a paper copy delivered to me. I get an email or a text message from Martha. That works for me. I don't know how the rest of the board feels about how they get their packets.
Same here. Digitally, a text will work best for me, and I've spoken to Martha in reference to that. For some reason, I cannot open the email attachment. But aside from that, do you foresee an issue if we're requesting an item on the agenda, let's say on a Wednesday or Thursday before the Friday that the agenda is going to be posted? I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, what are you thinking? Are you going to close? Are you going to wait till Friday 5 o'clock to post it and then send the agenda to everyone at 5 o'clock Friday? Is that what you're thinking? And the reason why I have that question is because that really doesn't give any of us an opportunity in case we have questions to make changes to that agenda. That pretty much seals it, right? That's 72 hours before today's meeting. So
I can make a practice, say, of the Wednesday, having an agenda. And this way it gives you time to review. And if there's something in addition that you want, then we still have the Thursday and actually Friday morning to get it to you.
I like that.
But it's just on however everyone would be satisfied and however it works, then I will comply with your wishes. I've seen it both ways. I've worked in cities where I've had to do that early and close it out on Wednesday, but leave it open really until close it for my viewing and for my gathering of information. But this way, it still leaves it for Friday, and if a last-minute thing comes up and it still beats the deadline, we can include it in another item. But
Let me ask you this, would the board like to consider that in our bylaws or just as verbally agreed? If everybody is in agreement to that, because I like that practice where everyone is aware that by Wednesday you submit your items, but that doesn't mean that you don't have time to change, because that's typically how I end up making changes, or if I request changes, it's after I've seen the agenda. Hey, what about this? What about that? And I want to have some time. to put in my request in reference to an item after I've looked into it. If I feel that it may be needing some changes, but I'm not too sure if we have to officially put it in the bylaws or just verbally
Well, we
agree.
can look at the bylaws. I don't have them in front of me right now, but to see what is in there.
I
They,
bel-
they are in here in front of us?
I believe it requires two board members requesting the item, pretty much, but it doesn't mention anything in reference to Wednesday being a cutoff. It's just a 72 hours, but that's more of.
Why don't we put that request in a future agenda item and discuss it, so we can do that. Right now, it's
Sounds
an
good.
executive director's report under the calendar, so we can consider that next
All right,
meeting.
I'll make sure that on the next meeting, there's an item listed on there that
That specifically addresses
consideration
how,
to gather all
put the agenda.
information for the agenda and say, close it for bringing in items on the agenda, say Wednesday midday. But that gives us an opportunity to add on changes to the agenda before due date.
Good.
Good, all right. There have been some budget amendments that have been viewed and done. I know that, again, I have to rely on Martha because she can give you a better explanation of what she did on this, so I'd like to bring an opportunity for Martha to speak regarding this.
okay?
Supplies and for clothing. So we went ahead and just added more money, just because I knew we were gonna have a new board member and a new director. And then I also added some money for traveling because I know that we want to go to different conferences, so I added more money to that. For the other, P&L, that we're gonna have a plan coming in October. With the other ones, that I have advertised tonight, I just saw the two parts of this 4 months of the year. July, August and September, actually 2 more months, so we can finish the year with no more negatives.
So are those numbers in the right, the existing budget right
Yes.
now? That's
And
what,
then
that's
ones
the,
at very end are the new ones.
that's our balance right now? The one, the very far right column, amended budget amount, or no?
That's what was left in that account, on that number line, item number.
Okay. Any questions, board members, comments on that? We're good?
Just because of the fact that TMOs are gonna be taking place on October the 9th, 10th, and 11th, but reservations are taking place before the end of the fiscal year. So that's what we have to move, make some adjustments there. So if interested, let Ms. Martha know, Mr. Arturo Rodriguez now, so that we can make the proper accommodations for October 11th.
9, 10, and 11 of October of this year.
October. It'll be taking place in San Antonio.
San Antonio.
Would it be possible for us to receive an email in reference to this, and then we'll respond, because, you know, we've got to make arrangements if we're gonna
We'll
go
do
or
that.
not.
Send us an email? Very good. Okay, we'll move on.
All right, sir. Under 4, Section E, the Denny's project update, I have briefly been in discussion with City Manager Arjona, but I still don't know everything about the Denny's project that's going up, so I know there was questions and things that City Manager was doing, so
There's a substantial progress in that building, the Denny's restaurant. Currently, they're working, if I'm not mistaken, I guess prepping for the stucco, the facade. It's taking shape. I think now it looks like the modernized Denny's. But we're hoping that within the next 2 months, possibly pushing 3 months, that project will be completed. So if I'm not mistaken, I think they said tentatively by the middle of end of October, that's when that is gonna be open, the Denny's.
Have you
Denny's
spoken
restaurant.
to David Bramble
I haven't
recently or
spoken
no?
to him lately. I know that there's an item on the city side, our commitment, that will be taking place here pretty soon on the reimbursement of that parking area, the one in the back. I
Right.
drove by yesterday. All of it is pretty much completed. Like I said, what they're working on is on the extra stucco, the facade. And
But there haven't been any setbacks, right? Nothing to hold them back on
No.
anything.
No, everything's.
Everything's
running
just
smoothly.
rolling right along.
Yes, sir.
Good.
And luckily, the weather has really helped, so they're moving pretty fast on that.
Last time I spoke to him, he said, yeah, they were humming. He said his 90 days was his projected finish,
Right.
and he said he thought he could get it done. Good.
Not a question, just, I'd like to recognize that, our attorney, acting attorney is present, just to make sure.
I saw her. Thank you for being here with us. Okay, we'll skip letter F, you said?
There's, just on this one, the Project Square, I mean, the update on that, already signed the contract as far as the property goes, but there's, we're still working on the contract as far as a commitment, but we'll discuss in the executive session if we may.
Then we'll move on to G on your report, Mr. Rodriguez.
The fiscal year 2019-2020 budget workshop date. And I know tentatively there has been attempts to set one, and I think Mr. City Manager Arjona is still working on a date and a location, right?
Right, and that's up here so that we can discuss a future date that we can have the first round of the budget workshop. Typically and historically has been a couple of workshops where we bring in the wish list and then we take it back so that we can balance it, and then we bring it before you for approval. So if we can maybe discuss a tentatively date, so give us some dates so that we can work around your old schedules, and maybe set a date and then send it back to you also, that you can tell us this date is available, that date is available, we can do it. On the city side, just so you know, we're having our first one tomorrow.
By when do we have to adopt this budget?
It'll be before the,
Because October 1st is the year, right? From October to November, so anytime before then. So we'd like to have it done by September?
yes, the latest that we'd like to, and the fact that there may be some changes, is at the first meeting in September, pretty much have it approved. And if there's some questions or any concerns or any items that need to be moved or add or remove, then we'll move it to the second meeting. But typically, we're targeting the first week in September.
Rest of July and August to tackle that, I think. We want to look at our calendars and choose a date that would work for us as a budget workshop date. Like he said, city's meeting tomorrow already, so let me see what my calendar looks like.
Now, let me ask, are you referring to when the budget workshop date, just us or along with the city commission?
Just you.
Just us, okay.
Well, he's saying we'd like to have it probably by the end of August, so that we could already be moving on our first September meeting to have it on the agenda to adopt it. In case we have a change, we got the second meeting in September, but by October 1st, that's too late. So I would say we can do it in August sometime. We can maybe even swap out one of our meetings for the budget
Yeah,
workshop.
we can.
The first Tuesday in August, which would be August the 6th, swap out our meeting with the budget workshop.
August 6th.
Knock that out.
Issue, would it be here or would you prefer at the office?
Here? This is fine. Okay, we'll do it here.
Will that give you enough time to review our budget and make any suggestions, recommendations?
Yes, sir, it will.
Okay.
I've already started looking at the budget and thinking of areas to come back and address with you. But I have looked at it several times already, and I'm thinking, so it will be enough time.
Any other comments? August the 6th for a budget workshop, and we'll scratch our meeting, we'll swap it out for that. There's no other comments or concerns on the executive director's report. We'll move on to our next item, which is our regular agenda, number 5. 5A is discussion and possible action for organization of the San Juan Economic Development Corporation Board. Today, what are the board members? Who are our board members? I know I'm the president, and we've got Mr. Lenny, Sanchez is the vice president. Treasurer is Blackie, and our secretary is now vacant. So we don't have a secretary. Okay, let me write that
There
down.
really was ever a need, Mr. President, for an assistant. I don't remember, where was it?
Our secretary is vacant right now.
Secretary.
Secretary, okay, I've got a motion. Do I have a second? I got a second, a motion and a second for Mr. Pedro Contreras to fill the secretary position on our board. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. How about the rest of the positions? You want to consider doing something there? No, for the president, vice president, and treasurer. You want to make a
Yeah, I'll
motion?
make a motion to keep as is, the three individuals.
Okay.
That's correct.
So I've got a motion
Second.
and a second to keep the existing positions occupied by the people that are there now, which is Arturo Guajardo, president, Lenny Sanchez, vice president, and Israel Garza, treasurer. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Move on to the next item. B, discussion and possible action on removing the Economic Development Corporation lease, renewing the Economic Development Corporation lease, which was tabled on June the 26th of 2019. Mr. Arjona, I know you've been working on this. What are your recommendations?
Yes, and as we talked about at the last meeting, it was for that one-year renewal. However, it was asked for me to communicate with Mr. Bob Trevino. Unfortunately, I have not been successfully able to talk to him. Left numerous messages, but at this point, either month to month, or we do either the 1 year or preferably the 1
When
year.
does our lease expire?
It expires July the 14th.
It
July 14th.
expired already?
Yes.
So we are currently on a month.
Hold on, if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Marta, did you not mention something, you spoke to somebody in his office that they would extend was there an extension requested or not? Okay, so we're,
Well, I don't know if we can do that, right? I don't know if we can accept a thing like that.
And I don't
I
think
mean,
it's,
I would ask our legal counsel to look at that, but I don't think we can do that.
I don't think it's a free month, the same,
It's just a carryover on the month to month, and we would pay for it.
now,
Right.
my question, Mr. President, was more in reference to an extension for us to decide what route we're gonna. Obviously, I'm not too sure if I can decide without having some communication, Mr. Arjona and, Mr. Trevino, or now Mr. Rodriguez and Mr. Trevino, but I would like for some discussion there to occur, so you guys can come back and tell us what was decided, so we can actually make a decision.
So is our landlord willing to keep us, I guess is the question. So the landlord's willing to keep us. Now it's up to us to decide, do we want to stay there or do we want to not be there? We don't have an alternative at this point. So my recommendation would be to continue being there until we find an alternative down the road.
The question is, are we gonna go month to month or on a yearly basis contract?
Or what are our options
What
at
are our
this point?
options, Mr. Hona?
That last time, we're kind of gonna negotiate, I believe, the term.
That was the option I was referring to.
Where is that? What are you looking at?
60,
The first tab?
yeah, the regular agenda, where you go into the regular,
Behind the number 6.
the number 6.
Mr. President,
Agenda and then the lease
basically,
agreements.
do you remember this, Mr. Garza, do you remember basically what we wanted them to negotiate or discuss was keep us at the 2-year rate for 1 more year? Or am I wrong?
Is that what we want?
Do you
yeah,
remember this?
that's what directed over to me.
Okay. That's what we're gonna shoot for. We're gonna
That's
ask
what we're
our
shooting for.
landlord to keep us for a year at that rate.
At that rate.
And Mr. President, what I'm saying is that was discussed and we instructed Mr. Arjona to negotiate or discuss this with Mr. Trevino, but he's coming back telling us that he hasn't, the conversation has not taken place because you've not been able to contact him or he hasn't returned your calls. So that's the reason why I was asking, there is another option. The option is whether or not he's going to accept what we requested, right?
So at this point, I think it would be safe for us to take action and go ahead and proceed to do that, to say, we'll renew at that rate, and if he says no, then we'll come back and do whatever we gotta do.
How long is City Hall gonna take to build after?
Think about a year.
About a year.
Yes.
So,
Maybe a year, if not a little bit over a year. Right.
So the motion would be to continue pursuing what was decided last meeting?
One-year contract at the current rate, monthly rate, right?
Correct.
if he can give us that rate.
We'll proceed to ask him to renew a one-year contract at that same rate.
So I'm making the motion to continue with that decision that we had made last meeting was for Mr. Arjona or Mr. Rodriguez, whichever one, eventually make contact, communicate that, and then come back and let us know whether it was approved or not.
Go out and say, approve the 1 year contingent upon accepting the previous rate that we had.
So what was that, Mr. Arjona?
In this 1 year lease, so we don't have to bring it back to you all. And contingent upon,
It's contingent on him accepting.
Right.
Así na ya, it's a done deal.
and then we just let you know, ¿sabes
You want,
qué?
you want it approved by the board?
The guy did not approve.
No, right
So
now, we'll take the
we wouldn't-
motion that we want, to extend this contract, this lease,
For a
at the
year.
2760 for 1 year,
For 1 year.
contingent upon him accepting,
Okay.
whatever the number is.
What,
2540 is.
20, thank you for clarifying that.
2540 is the current rate?
Yes.
Okay,
That's-
so,
that's what-
2540.
so my motion is to accept a one-year contract at 2,540 for 1 year,
It's actually 2520.
okay?
The-
2520,
Our lease agreement right now.
2520?
Is that correct? 2520.
okay. So my motion is for 1 year, 2,520 lease agreement contingent on his accepting, and his as Mr. Trevino.
Okay, I've got a motion
Second.
and a second, to extend our lease at the current rate of $2,520 per month for 1 year, contingent upon Mr. Trevino accepting, that renewal. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is 5C, discussion and possible action on adopting a resolution of the application submitted for participation in Techstar Investment Pool, allowing the city of San Juan EDC to invest its funds in a spectrum way to maximize the EDC's return on investments while still maintaining fiscally prudent investments. Okay.
Chairman, board members, we're doing the investments. I don't know if we're doing them here through the EDC, but we're doing them through the city. So what it is that when we do the investments, it'll give us a flexibility of pulling monies out as we need and still don't get, not to get penalized. In other words, let's say we put a CD, the CD is gonna be locked for 6 months, but if we need to pull the monies out, then we'll get penalized. With this here, we won't get penalized. And this is the actual bank that we're banking with. So they're giving us that flexibility. Join the program, you can do the investments, and at any point that you wanna pull some monies for whatever reason, you're not gonna be penalized. You're not gonna be committed to a certain term, 3 months, 6 months, a year. You still get the same rate.
The city of San Juan is already using
Yes, sir,
them.
we're doing that.
So now this is
I'm
on
bringing
here
it over
to, if
before
we want to
the
consider
EDC.
doing the same
Right.
thing. This is all for money that we've reserved, I'm assuming, not any of the active budget. So when it would come time to decide that, hey, we want to invest X amount of money, would that be an item for discussion here, an action item for this board to decide on, or the executive director on his own would be doing that?
Director, and if it's dollar amount, we can always bring it before you.
saying that the money that has invested currently,
Months, 6 months. So,
when you say we, I'm sorry, Mr. Arjona.
The city.
You mean the city, okay.
the city.
So currently, the EDC has investment as CDs and so forth?
I cannot answer that. I don't think we're doing that because that's separate.
Saying that
So, when we
this,
look,
if we take action today, then this will put us in the loop too, to do the same thing that the city's doing.
Things
What is-
currently, we don't have those investments.
Right, and what is the local banks doing here? Or what are our local banks doing as far as the rates and stuff like that?
we're
And of
banking,
course, they're gonna be locked in for 3, 6 months, whatever the
Right.
term is.
and this is with Plains Capital. That's what we're actually banking with.
Plains Capital,
Yes,
is
sir.
this is, okay, okay.
And whatever the
And
rates
there
are,
won't be no penalties.
there won't be any penalties when we lock in a CD. That's, for instance, a CD, but it's not necessarily a CD, but it works similar to it. So let's say we're locking in at 0.69, whatever interest rate is. The CD typically locks you in for 6 months. So this way is not gonna lock us in at 6 months. We're not gonna get penalized if we use the money for something, let's say meeting payroll for whatever reason.
Pull it out and there's no penalty.
Right, there's no penalties
So I mean, it's a
whatsoever.
benefit. I mean,
There are, of course, we'll look at your liabilities and your assets on whatever monies we are utilizing. But there are several agreements that have X number of dollars to be paid by a certain date in the year. So that money really is not touched until that date. So this is one area that we could take advantage of and say, put that in the reserve, see what interest rate we can gain. And we don't have to really do anything with it until the due date of the liability and the previous contracts that have been done. So,
And with the bond principals that we pay on a yearly basis, we just leave the money aside. We don't use them.
Case will be earning some interest,
A little bit, but we'll earn some.
something, right,
Yes.
right.
the action that we would be taking on is to participate in this Techstar investment pool, right?
Not the amount.
No, just to have the opportunity to participate in it. Whether we decide to invest later or not is a different thing.
Motion? Make a motion to go ahead and approve.
Okay, I got a motion in favor of participating in the Techstar investment pool. Do I have a second? And a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, our next item is item 6, executive session agenda, which would go into closed session. So this Board of Directors San Juan may convene in a closed meeting pursuant to provisions of Chapter 551, Subchapter D, exceptions to requirements of meetings to be open. It is now 6:03. We are going into executive session.
And it's, just for the record, it's pursuant to it's regarding the Project Square update, the
Okay.
Project Square matter.
Regarding Project Square matter.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. It is 6:15, and we are now reconvening this meeting. We are out of executive session. No action is required. We will proceed as discussed in executive session. Our next item on the agenda is adjournment. Do I have a motion? Got a motion?
Second.
And a second to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting is
No
now
creo,
adjourned.
digo, güey.
Thank you.